All right, this is lesson 1.5 of Introduction to Algebra. This is titled Number Properties, and we'll be talking about two very specific number properties, the commutative property and the associative property. All right, so lesson 1.5, number properties. This is a pretty simple lesson, guys. One page of notes and two pretty simple principles, really. All right, so warm up. Number 1, 5 times parentheses 3 times 4. Number 2, parentheses 5 times 3, and then times 4. And number 3, 8 squared plus 3 squared. And number 4, 3 squared plus 8 squared. Now, I want you to work out the values of each of these, and then after you do, ask yourself, why do you think they're posing these questions to you in the order and in the way that they're ordering them? What do you notice about these two problems? What do you notice about these two problems? All right, that plays directly into what we're learning in today's lesson. So our I can statement is, I can recognize and use the commutative, C-O-M-M-U-T-A-T-I-V-E, commutative, and associative, O-C. Let me erase that. I don't want that to be messy looking. Okay, associative. Properties. Okay, I can recognize and use, oops, let's get that back up there a little. I can recognize and use the commutative and associative properties. All right, so my green line here, and we'll show you what this looks like. All right, so your notes today, I want you to glue them in a slightly different way than usual. We're going to put them, let's get this all in frame here. We're going to put them all the way over to the left, but halfway between your green line and the bottom of the paper. All right? Halfway between your green line and the bottom of the paper. Come on. So, halfway here. Halfway between your green line and the bottom of the paper. You can't quite see the bottom of my paper, but it's about halfway between the green line and the bottom of my paper. Okay? Okay, that should be dried. Yellow highlighter. We're talking about properties of addition and multiplication. Because these two properties we're talking about, commutative and associative properties, only apply to addition and multiplication. And that'll become pretty obvious here in a minute. All right, so I want you to go ahead and highlight commutative property in pink and associative property in pink, and then we'll talk about what those mean in a minute. But before we do that, I want you, let's see, where's the green line? There it is. I want you to take your yellow pencil, or I'm sorry, red pencil, and about a half inch in or so from the edge of your paper, draw a line from that green line all the way down to the bottom of your page. All right? And then I'm going to turn it so you can see what I did, because we're going to make a note right in here that'll affect everything we're talking about. All right? And that note is that these properties only apply to addition and multiplication. All right. Only apply to addition and multiplication. And why might that be? Well, because we're talking about two properties that have to do with how we group numbers and how we order numbers. And in addition and multiplication, you know that order doesn't matter. I could put the numbers in any order and my answer will still be the same. That is not true of division and subtraction. Order most definitely matters. If I try to set up a problem that says 4 minus 3, I get an answer of 2. But if I switch those numbers and say, what did I say? 2 minus 4, I get a negative number, something different. Anyway, you know that the answers are not going to be the same. Order matters when we're talking about division and subtraction. So these properties that we're going to be talking about today, when they have to do with reordering numbers or regrouping numbers, they can only apply to addition and multiplication, because those are the only two operations where order doesn't matter. All right? Now, here's where we go back and I'll explain to you what these two properties we're talking about mean. The first one here in the notes is the commutative property. And it says in the notes, I know sometimes this tiny little writing doesn't come up on video very well, so I like to at least read it. It says, the order in which numbers are added or multiplied does not change the value of an expression. So here they're showing you 5 plus 3 equals 3 plus 5. If I switch the numbers around, if I move the numbers on each side of the equal sign, it does not change the value. Here they have 4 times 6 equals 6 times 4. Same thing. I can flip, I can move those numbers, and it doesn't change the value you get. It will still be equal. So right here with your red pencil, go ahead and write move. The key word in remembering how the commutative property works is that the numbers move, or they commute. When I commute from my home to my school where I work, that means I move from home to work. Commute means to move, and the commutative property means the numbers have moved, but the value hasn't changed, which is why we can only apply it to addition and multiplication. All right, now, down here, they're saying associative property. The way in which numbers are grouped in addition and multiplication expressions does not change the value of the expression. Okay, so here they have 2 plus 4 plus 7 in parentheses equals 2 plus 4 in parentheses plus 7. Notice, just don't even notice the parentheses right now, and just notice the numbers, 2, 4, 7. And on the other side of the equation, 2, 4, 7. The numbers did not change order. But what they did is they changed how they are grouped, how they are associated. If I am associating with a certain group of friends, and then I change and begin associating with a different group of friends, okay, that's how grouping connects to the word associative. But the order of the numbers didn't change, and only can it apply then to addition and subtraction. So on this one, I want you to write not move. The numbers didn't move, only grouping changed. So on commutative, you're going to see the numbers change positions. Same numbers, but they'll move around on each side of the equal sign. On associative, the numbers are going to stay in the same order. They're just going to change how they grouped them. All right? So let's make some notes about that. Get that in your head. That's pretty much what this lesson is all about, what I just explained there. So we'll make some notes, make sure we understand. Frame? Yeah, okay. So up here, commutative property first. Commutative property with my regular pencil, all right, on each side of the equal sign, numbers changed order, okay? On each side of the equal sign, same numbers, they just changed the order. That means the commutative property is being applied to that equation, okay? They moved, the numbers moved. I commute from one place to another. So over here on the side, I want you to write commute. C-O-M-M-U-T-E. Commute means to move. Okay, means to move. Commute means to move. All right. So an example that we will give here is 4 times 9 equals 9 times 4. We still have the same numbers on each side of the equal side, a 4 and a 9, okay? But they're not in the same order anymore. On this side of the equation, the 4 was first, right? But on this side of the equation, the 4 moved. It's now the second number, okay? The commutative property is being applied, okay? Commutative. All right, so same numbers, they just change orders. They move, commute, move. All right, so you'll hear me say that over and over again because students tend to forget which is which easily. All right, so we're done with commutative. I'm going to make this little green line go across to there, okay? And now we're going to talk about, I'm going to leave this in frame for a second, make sure you got that. All right, and now we're going to talk about associative. All right, so I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of my page here. Here we go. And we will write, get my blue pencil back out. Now we're going to talk about associative property. Associative property. With the associative property, on each side of the equal sign, each side of the equation, each side of the equal sign, numbers stay in the same order. They don't move. They stay in the same order. Only grouping only grouping changes. And that's done with parentheses. So you'll see parentheses in these equations that are where the associative property applies. You won't in commutative property. All right, that's the other difference you should notice. Okay, all right, so much like we did with commutative, let's make a couple notes about associative. So associate means to group. Associate means to group, all right? And here's our example. 4 times 2 times 8 in parentheses equals 4 times 2 in parentheses times 8. Now, look at this. 4, 2, 8, 4, 2, 8. The numbers did not change order. They stayed in the same order. The only thing that changed is how they were grouped, right? So, I want, let's see, with my blue pencil, I want to put same order. Got the same order of numbers here, and same order over here as well. Okay, but what happened is we changed how they were grouped, right? And that's what makes it associative. Okay, I'm going to put under here only grouping changed. The order of the numbers stayed the same. All right, so there's your notes for associative. All right, one more time. Here's commutative, and here's associative. All right, so that's all there is to the notes. Let's go on and do a couple of practice problems. Okay, practice problems for lesson 1.5. The first section here is going to be to identify the properties shown by each mathematical statement. All we're doing here is figuring out, is the commutative property being applied, or is the associative property being applied, all right? And then down here on the second part, determine if the expressions are equal. If they are, identify the property. All right. So if the associative property or the commutative property is being used, then the expressions will be equal. Remember what we said though about when the associative property and when the commutative property can apply. They can't apply to all operations. All right. All right. So I'll go back to the top here, and you may pause and work these out. And then the second step, I'll pause, you can work these out. All right, let me show you how these are done. Okay, so I'm looking to see, did the numbers move? That would be commutative properties, or did the grouping only change? All right, so on number 1, 5, 4, 2, 5, 4, 2. The numbers did not move, but the grouping changed. Here the 4 and 2 is grouped, and here the 5 and 4 is grouped. So this one, and it's all addition. So this one, the associative property is being applied. And I'm just going to put AP for associative property. And that's all I require on your worksheets too. I don't know about other 6th grade teachers, but I don't require you to write all that out. All right. Okay, on the next one, I see that I have 2, 3, and 10, and 10, 3, and 2. Same numbers on both sides, but they have moved. They've changed orders. Moving, commute. That means I have the commutative property happening here. And it's all addition, so I know the commutative property can apply. All right? So the next one, I have 4 and 9 and 9 and 4. Same numbers on each side, but they are not in the same order. They have moved. So the commutative property, as it applies to multiplication, is being used here. And on number 4, I have 9, 1, 7, 9, 1, 7. The numbers didn't move. They're all in the same order. But here, the 9 and the 1 are grouped, and here, the 1 and the 7 are grouped. Only the grouping changed. So grouping, associate, that's the associative property as it applies to multiplication. All right? Pretty simple. Okay, here we go, down here. Now, we're trying to determine if the expressions are equal, and if they are, to identify the property. Here's what I need to look at. Okay? First of all, right off the bat, I know the associative and the commutative property cannot apply to subtraction. I cannot change the grouping in subtraction and get the same answer. So let's think about it. Grouping says I have to do this first. 6 minus 2 is 4. And 11 minus 4 is 7. Sorry. All right, now, if I did this, I'm going to write a little tiny 7 over here just to remind me. I have to do this first in that grouping symbol. 11 minus 6 is 5, and 5 minus 2 is 3. Are they equal? No. They can't possibly be. Order matters. Okay? Grouping matters. You can't apply either one of those to a subtraction problem. And so not equal is what I would put down for this one. All right? Sorry about that. Somebody walked through and I got distracted. I hope I didn't make a mistake on that. Well, I know they're not equal, but anyway, here we go. All right, so on this one, I have multiplication, so it's possible that these could be equal. 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3. They're in the same order, same numbers. Only things that changed is the grouping. So I know when I apply the associative property to multiplication that they are equal. And this is because the associative property is being applied grouping. All right, on this one, I have addition, so it's possible that the associative or the commutative property is being applied. 9, 11, 11, 9. So they changed orders, they moved commutative property. It's addition. I know order doesn't matter, so I know they are equal because of how the commutative property is applied to addition. All right, this one right here is division. I know that they cannot be equal. 3 divided by 1 is not the same thing as 1 divided by 3. And I know that neither the associative property or the commutative property can apply to this because they can only apply to addition and multiplication. So this one is not equal. All right, not equal. All right, so that's your practice problems for lesson 1.5. Let's take a look at the worksheet. Worksheet is very much like your practice problems. The top part here is just asking to identify which property is shown. So you're just going to write next to it. And again, for me, you can write CP or AP. I don't care if you write out commutative and associative every time. Other teachers may feel different, so do what your teacher asks for you, but that's fine for me. All right. Now, down here is when you're going to have to look a little closer, like the second part of the practice problems. You're going to have to decide, are these equal, true or false? And if they are equal, what's the property that is applied to it? Okay, and then down here it asks you to use the commutative property to write the numerical expression 2 times 11 times 5 in 2 different ways. So if you understand how the commutative property works, that's really easy to do. And then the same thing here, use the associative property to write this expression in one other way. Again, if you understand how the associative property works, that's really easy to do. All right. Okay, so that's the worksheet. Final thing is your exit ticket here. Let's zoom in on that. Too far. Here we go. And I don't give you the answers for these. This is just for extra practice, and your teacher may use this for something else. Okay, so that's the end of lesson 1.5. Remember, the only way to learn math is to do math, and mistakes are proof that you are learning.